Okay, great. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. As was noted, I'm going solo, so I'm Mark Bannister. I'm in the politics team here in our School of Social and Political Science. Catherine, unfortunately, is not too well today, so won't be presenting with me. But I'll be talking a little bit about her research and the academic fellowships that we're both on in Parliament. So it's 2:45, and we've done really well because it's got to 2:45, and I've been on Brexit watch, and nobody so far has mentioned Brexit at all in any of their presentations. Which I think is to be commended. However, I'm going to break that, of course, because I work in Parliament, I study in Parliament, I also teach, of course, British politics, so unfortunately I can't avoid it at all, and it is the context that we're working in at the moment. So, the kind of title I had, I think you'll see in the programme, is Researching Parliament. Well, actually, it changed that a little bit, and I want to talk primarily about researching in Parliament, because that's essentially what Catherine and myself have been doing for the best part of the last 3 years, dipping in and out of Parliament on the schemes that we've been involved in. Before I go on, though, just want a quick show of hands to say, okay, who's been in Westminster? Let's have a show. Who's been to the House of Commons? Okay, imagine. Oh, okay, not as many as I'd have thought. Okay, so has anyone worked in Parliament? Okay, apart from my colleagues up there, okay, they are now. Okay, so, right, how many people have given evidence, either written or oral evidence? Okay, so numbers going down a bit. Okay, so, right, so that's quite useful. Okay, it's something that we perhaps should all consider. I've been lucky enough to have worked in Parliament, been in Parliament twice, so I'm kind of on my second go. The first time was, give away my age now, 25 years ago, okay, 25 years ago, when I happened to be sharing an office with a kind of quite, not particularly well-known backbench Labour MP who was basically best known for being the most troublesome MP in Parliament at the time, who had the record for voting against his party line more than any other MP. That MP is, of course, now the leader of the opposition. Okay, so little did I know then, okay, that the next desk, but hey-ho, these things happen. We live in very strange times in British politics. So I'm on my kind of second go now, working in Parliament, 25 years, a little bit wiser, hopefully, and understanding what goes on there in a little bit more detail. So Catherine and I both applied in an open call to be academic parliamentary fellows. Now, I wasn't at Lincoln at the time. I was at my previous university at Canterbury, Christchurch University, and I joined Lincoln a year ago. Catherine applied when she was obviously here. And we were both successful with two different projects that we put to panel. This was also part of the Political Studies Association, which is essentially our kind of trade body, if you like, for those studying politics. It was actually a 2-year scheme, so we had access. We had a full pass where we could go in and out of Parliament. We had a mentor as well, a Member of Parliament staff, and this was also a competitive process, so we had to convince a panel with our application that our projects were worth supporting. There was no funding associated, unfortunately, but we did have this access. It was extended for an extra year because of the election, so we couldn't really do much during the 2017 election, so we made the case to extend it, and it's coming to an end shortly. So what I thought I'd do is actually reflect a little bit on what it's like to work, to research in Parliament, and as opposed to just talking about the research. But before I do that, I do want to talk a little bit about the research. And this feeds in, I think this all feeds into something that Duncan was saying at the start in terms of those three elements of research, public engagement and teaching. Because these projects we've kind of had in mind research outputs, public engagement, but also feeding into our teaching. Because here we are very lucky to teach parliamentary studies. So Andrew Defty up there teaches the parliamentary studies module here at Lincoln, which we're very proud of, and myself and Catherine both teach on there as well. So, so there's that element really of all those three elements of what we're doing. My research is primarily focused on a committee called the Liaison Committee, which I don't, unless people have read my work, I guess I don't expect them to have heard too much about, but it's a very important committee. So this is the point when I ask everyone to see whether they can spot me in the picture. Okay, if anyone can spot me in the picture. Then I haven't got a prize, but I am up there, and so my mother-in-law was very proud of this, and now the family know what I do. Okay, so I'm actually there. If you look at the pause button, okay, so the little pause symbol there, which is just located above my head. So that's me watching MPs watching the Prime Minister. Giving evidence to the Liaison Committee. This is what I do when I'm in Parliament. The Prime Minister gives evidence 3 times a year to Liaison Committee. Liaison Committee is all of the chairs of the select committees. So select committees have been around for 40 years now. Very important scrutiny and accountability part of what goes on in Parliament. And very different atmosphere to Prime Minister's questions here. 90 minutes of questioning in a committee environment. And I can observe from the clerk's table. So because of the fellowship, I work closely with the committee. I work with the clerks who run the committee, and for these sessions, they let me sit up on the clerk's table, which means that you get a really good view of the Prime Minister giving evidence, but also of how the MPs are also responding and reacting. And they kind of think you're a bit of an insider as well. They think you're part of the committee, and you kind of half are part and half are not part. So to the extent when one of the MPs turned around and passed me a note and asked me to do something, okay, and I'd say, hey, look, I'm just a humble academic kind of watching here. What I'm interested in is how this committee, these sessions can be more effective. You've got 90 minutes with the Prime Minister in front of you, so I've been advising the committee on how they may improve their questioning, but also making suggestions to the committee too. I've been doing some, dull academic work like content analysis of the transcripts. These sessions have been going since 2002, I think. So got a good amount of data in terms of transcripts. I've been crunching through that lot as well. But a really interesting part is the participant observation of being in there and sort of seeing how they function, sort of being close to power, if you like, and seeing how it responds in that environment. This is an important accountability mechanism that I've also is important to kind of demonstrate is happening. So one of the advantages of being in Parliament is that I can do a few other things as well. So I'm particularly interested in leadership, and this feeds into some of the difficulties that have been over Brexit and the status of Parliament, if you like. So I'm quite interested in lack of leadership and governance in Parliament as well. So I took the opportunity to shadow the Speaker and the Lord Speaker as well whilst I was on the fellowship. So I spent a couple of days following the Speaker around and taking advantage. They're sitting in on the governing organisation in the Commons and the Lords, the Commons Commission and the Lords Commission. So that's kind of a little bit about my research. Catherine's is very much looking at the public face, or Parliament engages very much with the public now. Not necessarily through MPs, but it has education service, increased public understanding, bringing broader voices into Parliament. So her work is very much about what Parliament has been doing to ensure sort of fairness, if you like, in reaching out in terms of to schools, to young people, to various different groups. So looking at the sort of education services, the archives, the sort of events that Parliament puts on now. So it's very much has this public engagement function in Parliament, which Catherine is very interested in, whether this is a fair system of people equally represented there as part of this newer agenda. And select committees have been very much part of that as well, with citizens' assemblies and different ways of reaching out. Particularly, I mean, we heard about social care earlier. That's one where there's been very much Parliament has tried to fill that kind of policy gap. So, reflecting a little bit on our experience, there are certain benefits, of course, as a researcher, actually being there at the time. I know Catherine's managed to get into Prime Minister's questions just by being there. You can talk. It's a lot easier to talk to MPs, to talk to parliamentary staff, because you have that kind of sense that you're already in the building. You don't have to go through those obstacles to get in there. So we do have that access, that privileged access as well, and to ask about what staff think, what MPs think about what's going on, pretty much in real time. We've got a sense of looking at this from the sort of inside out. So this was the idea of these fellowships, that you'd have several people, and there's a little picture of the five of us there who were awarded the fellowships. The idea was that academics could then look from the inside out, inform the public, but also inform Parliament as well and parliamentary staff about reform and what's going on. So we can develop trust. So not necessarily being an outsider means that as a sort of semi-insider, you can gain trust of the people that you're working with as well. And that trust is developed because you have a mentor as well. You're kind of, it's sort of sanctioned that it's okay to be in there and ask these questions. It also gives you great potential to have some impact as well. So to think about how the work you're doing could influence Parliament, to open it up a little bit more, perhaps to think about accountability mechanisms. Are they working properly? Think about public engagement. Could Parliament do better? And so there is great potential for impact, and also pushing evidence-based research as well. Okay, some of the challenges that we found in the last 3 years, and there have been a few. So a bit uncertain about your status sometimes. Are you that insider, or are you the outsider? On the insider, on the inside, there's a sort of questionable sort of notion of what your status might actually be. The difficult of time. Okay, so ideally, I'd like to spend all my time there, but it's a challenge when you've got a full academic programme as well, to commitments elsewhere, research commitments and so on. With a lack of funding to go with the fellowship, it's hard to carve out time. And the time cycles for the research may be slightly different from the cycles in Parliament as well. We had to deal with questions of confidentiality and sensitive material. So I had a lot of kind of meetings with a range of people who then say, well, of course you can't use any of that. So there's essentially build trust, but then you have notions of how do you manage the data as well. So that we've kind of had to carefully navigate those sort of issues. And then of course there are sort of practical obstacles as well. So the pass lets you go all over, but then until somebody says, no, you can't go there. Okay, or we have no desk space in Parliament at all, so where do you work? So there are quite a few practical obstacles associated as well. We didn't have any kind of induction too. So there are some sort of challenges. One of the fellows ended up in lockdown when there was the terrorist attack in March 2017, and ended up stuck in Parliament for about 6 or 7 hours. So there are some practical obstacles with working in what is a security cordon place. So okay, so finally, so we have developed quite a few outputs and are developing impact, and I think we want to widen that notion of what impact is from just a sort of narrow sort of ref definition of impact, because we think that this can be, should be widened a little bit. So for instance, we've both published with the House of Commons Library. And these are some of the publications that actually we're most proud of, because they were joint publications with the library, with researchers in the library that are publicly available documents. Obviously one about the Liaison Committee and the Prime Minister, and Catherine's about Parliament's engagement with the public. All free to download and so on, about informing the public as well. And so we're adding that evidence base to the House of Commons Library work. Importantly as well, we're establishing a network of researchers here at Lincoln, and so we've got a little row up the top there of our ParleyLink researchers here, which is builds on our academic fellowship, and Hugh Buckles as well had his fellowship in the Scottish Parliament. So we're bringing together a critical mass of people here at Lincoln who have expertise in Parliament, okay, in terms of looking at Parliament, witness diversity issues, intelligence and security issues, and a range of issues about parliamentary accountability. But also we hope that by building a network, we've now got an online presence as well, we can help other people or assist others, other researchers here to get involved, to maybe submit evidence. A group of us submitted evidence to a recent inquiry together. So there are ways that we can possibly help people get their research out, get it into Parliament, get it read by select committees, give evidence, and so on. So there is great potential there to develop the college as develop Lincoln as a kind of centre of excellence, if you like, for studying and understanding what's going on in Parliament. So very much watch this space. This work is also informing our teaching with parliamentary studies, as I said earlier. So I think I'll call it a day there. So thank you very much indeed. Cheers.